Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2, episode 12 of my LinkedIn live show. I'm joined here today by Matt Doan. He is a transformational coach, he's a speaker and podcast host. And today we'll be talking about how to break free of the corporate cage. I think a lot of people realized after the pandemic that maybe your job isn't as good as it seems. Maybe there's a lot of things that you used to take for granted that it's bothering you now. So, Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm lovely. I'm so excited to be here with you, Steven. Let's do this.
Yeah, we got on a Zoom call, I believe sometime last year, and then
Mhm.
you signed up, and we had to move the date around a couple of times, but we're finally here. Matt, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Concise version. So, from a professional sense, I've been in consulting almost my whole life. It had been 15 years, and I'll tell you what happened. But it was for 15 years, kind of the blend of technology and management consulting, traveling all over the world as consultants do, helping Global 2000 companies, national security agencies, helping them with things like analytics and cybersecurity. And that was very fulfilling for a long time. A few other features of my life, though, worth noting. I got married very early in my early 20s, had three kids in my early 20s too. At the same time that I was crushing it and grinding it at work, I was finding all of my self-worth at work. Okay. And you can imagine maybe how this plays out a little bit. So being on the road constantly, diving into work, not being able to unplug, I had some crazy stuff happen. I lost a marriage, lost access to my kids. My mental health went really badly. My physical health, things really fell apart after about 10 years working in the corporate system. And I thought that was what I was supposed to do: bring home the money, have the impact, be the external force for the family. And then things fell apart. So I had to spend several years rebuilding myself, mental health wise, career vision wise, what I wanted out of life more generally, what sort of lifestyle I wanted, what kind of father I wanted to be. Did I want to get remarried? These sorts of things. So they were pretty existential questions that I was dealing with. So got into a lot of therapy, hired coaches, did self-development, lots of reading where I had not done that in the past, and came up with these new philosophies of how to work. I created a new lifestyle vision for myself. And as I got back into the corporate realm, I knew that I couldn't let it overtake me again. I had to operate differently under my own terms rather than let corporate happen to me. And I started operating differently. I started choosing meetings more carefully, choosing projects more carefully, not following the same guidance as everyone else. Everyone would say, go get these technical certifications. You must have this credential. You must have these sorts of experiences. You must be good at project management. And I realized those things didn't interest me. Why would I spend my time doing something that I hated? Why would I conform just because everyone else is doing it? And that's what the corporate system rewards. And I asked, can I be successful on my own terms? Can I choose to operate differently, where I'm successful doing things I like in a corporate system and preserve and enhance the lifestyle I want, being the husband and father I want, setting myself up health wise, all of that. So I spent several years implementing new practices. Before I knew it, I was teaching others how to do it. And several years of that informally. And then COVID hit. By the time COVID hit, I was wrestling with something, which is kind of this entrepreneurial bug. I needed to do something outside of corporate. I didn't know what. So I hired a new coach to help me create a side hustle. So created a side hustle business, an actual LLC business focused on coaching people. And it, over the course of 2021, it got bigger, it got sharper, it made more clarity for me, created a podcast around it, which we now call Uncaged Yourself. And what I found, Stephen, looking full picture of my journey here, is I was trapped in what I call the corporate cage. This was a mental state. This is not something externally placed upon me. This is not corporate owning me. This is me saying yes to an environment that was ruling my mental state. And I had the keys to unlock that cage, and I didn't know it. But then I started testing it. I realized that I could unlock my own cage and be more free. That's what I call living uncaged. So I did that for myself. I've been helping coaching clients for a while. And then as of this March of this year, just a month ago, I knew that so deeply it was my passion. I had to leave corporate and do this full time. It had to be the thing I was doing in this world. So I left after 15 years of management consulting, which is lucrative, right? And it's prestigious, as they all say, kind of like investment banking and whatnot. But I had to do it. And I've been out for a month now, fully out on my own. And I can't tell you how much joy and energy it gives me because I know I'm helping so many people live uncaged.
Wow. So this LinkedIn Live, this podcast is a perfect timing for you, right? You just fully transitioned into becoming a coach. And I think your story resonates with a lot of people. Like you said, we're all in this cage and we sort of accept it. People end up working at the same company for decades, for 20, 30 years. And they are just comfortable, right? And they are willing to take some negative things that maybe the company gives them, that they're just like, well, you know what? It is what it is. I'm just going to deal with it. But and on top of that, people are scared of change as well. They're just afraid to, maybe, like using your analogy, unlock the cage. They don't know what else is out there, and they're just scared. So I think your story really, really resonates with a lot of people. And sometimes you just have to take that leap of faith and say, you know what, I can't take this anymore. It's affecting my family, my mental health, etc. I got to make a change.
Exactly. One point there. A lot of people think they fear the unknown, trying something new, taking control of their life, going to a new job. But the reality, though, it's not that we fear the unknown. It's we fear losing the known. We have this safety net, this comfort, this salary, this set of colleagues we're used to working with, this daily rhythm. And what we're really scared of is losing that safety net. That is terrifying to humans who are wired for survival.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, right? We just like being comfortable, right? And you're comfortable, you're in the same position, you see the same people, you got the same commute, same boss, whatever, and you just get comfortable, and you're like, you know what, I'm good where I am, and I don't want to change. And unfortunately, if you don't change, you're just never going to grow. Mm-hmm. So let's see here. Just going to our first topic. How do you know if you're in a toxic work environment? What are some signs that maybe you just take it for granted, but it's like really, you look a little deeper, you're like, you know what, this is actually not a good thing at all?
I'm going to give you a two-part answer to this. How do you know if you're in a toxic work environment? Point one, you can look internally and externally. Let's start external. Externally, you can sweep and look at your environment. You look for a few features. Micromanagement, that is huge, okay? Micromanagement, if you know you're under the constant pressure of someone that must understand every detail, especially if you're several years, 5, 10, 15 years in your career, and you're still getting micromanaged, that's a symptom of the culture to be watching out for. If you're feeling a sense of burnout, you're going to also find features that there are systems, processes, priorities that are out of whack that are causing that burnout. Because what that means is they don't have what I call an essentialist view. They don't have a prioritized view of like a backlog of things that matter. Everything matters. So everyone's drowning in everything. And if you don't have a backlog of like, here's both the important and essential thing, or important and urgent things, and everything else can wait, like that is really important. So you've got to understand the people, you've got to look at the processes around you. If you're feeling burned out, if you're feeling micromanaged, those are the two top factors, I feel like, what is a toxic environment. And I'd also add, when you think about toxic work environment, people often use the word culture. The culture at so-and-so company is toxic. That's a very broad statement. Let's be careful there. You can't say an entire company is toxic. Generally, that's a very unfair characteristic, right? But you could say that this local culture, this local team is toxic because everyone's experience of culture is inherently localized. Your little team, your project, your little sphere, those are the people that create your culture. The whole company, no one experiences the whole company's culture. It's impossible. It's too big. It's amorphous. You can't grasp it, right? So know that you have to understand locally what it is. So that's external. Watch out for those factors. And then internally, Stephen, you have to understand if you're adding to this toxicity, like going back to the corporate cage thing, if you don't understand your life priorities, your vision for the lifestyle you want, the value system you have, how you want to spend your time, the health you want to have, the family priorities, if you don't have those in focus and you're just blindly giving yourself to work, it's going to feel toxic because you haven't gotten your internal order good to go. Your internal world has not been set. You've not done that goal setting. You've not completely or continually built a mindset that you want to live your best life. And until then, you're going to have a toxic work environment.
Yeah, you made some great points there. And, just focusing first on the external, you talked about micromanagement and burnout. I've seen a lot of people where you do things a certain way and it's just like someone just telling you, oh, you got to do it this way. You got to do this. Like, well, you might as well just do it for me. Right. You're just wasting everyone's time. You're wasting my time doing a task the way you want to do it. And then regarding burnout, I see this a lot. And you mentioned that backlog. Like it seems like everything's a priority, and people just can't take time off because they have too much stuff to do. They're working late hours, they're working long hours. When they go on vacation, they're just always on the phone replying to emails. They just really can't take a break from things. And I think that's really important to recognize in the workplace. You really have to set priorities. Not everything can't be on fire, right? You have to set priorities. And if everything's on fire and you can't handle it all, then maybe you just have to hire new people. You need more headcount to support all of these things.
Entirely possible, but generally most organizations are trying to do too much. They don't have the ability to understand the things that truly move the needle, or like what are the critical processes we have that deliver the core outcomes, and then everything else is secondary. But if you understand that critical process and you are maniacal about making that what you're focusing on, and everything else is kind of a nice to have or you get to in a later fashion, that creates a lot better lives for people.
Yeah, that's an excellent point as well. I think it's I think when people are burned out, and I'm talking about companies or even groups, when groups are burnt out, they have too many things on their plate. It just becomes execution, day-to-day execution, because you just don't have enough time in the day to finish everything. So you just focus just finishing everything you need today, and then you repeat tomorrow. But by doing all this, you forget about the strategic side, right? You don't have time to focus on the strategy of what should we focus on? Is this project worth our time? Is this making enough revenue for us? So that's a great point as well, Matt.
Thanks. One last thing I'll add is the idea of incentives. Great leaders and managers understand that inherently we as people all need to have individualized incentives. I care about me, you care about you. Let's not lie about that. We are wired biologically for survival, to our point earlier. So to a great extent, whenever we're going to spend our time on something, it has to incentivize us, whether we're interested in it, we're building a skill that's meaningful. Tangibly, I'll be rewarded with prestige, compensation, role, like all those things. If you're a great leader, you understand how to incentivize the individual. So every request that you make, you are making sure that the individuals understand what it could mean for them so that they want to be a part of this.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has different needs and wants, right? Some people, oh yeah, just give me a bunch of more money, give me a big raise, give me a larger salary. Or some other people's like, I just want more time off, right? I want more time with my family. So everyone has, everyone are in different stages of their life. They have different priorities, different needs and wants. So you definitely agree. You have to personalize the incentives. So now we talk about all these different signs of being in a toxic work environment. How do you break free of it? How do you break free of this corporate cage that you talk about, Matt?
Mm-hmm. I have a framework I use called the Uncaged Framework. I've been doing it in a one-on-one coaching fashion for the last year, and I'm about to release a cohort-based course for it using the same framework. I'll talk about that later. But the idea is there's 4 big steps to how you do this, right? And it's not so linear. It's a journey, and you're like spiraling your way towards a better state. But essentially, step 1 is stop the bleeding. You have to take control immediately of the pain in your environment. So if you look at some of the pains, you look at things like I have an obsessed micromanager boss. I have ridiculous meetings that I have to go to day in and day out where there's no agenda or value or purpose. And it's eating away at my health and my creative flow. I can't get any sort of deep work times. You look at just generally the pains that you're being saying yes to in your corporate cage, and you have to actually audit that and understand what sort of countermeasures can I put in place. I call them corporate countermeasures to actively stop that pain. And we'll go into all the details, but you have to pinch that down, buy yourself some time, space, and energy to breathe. Step 1. Step 2 is going deep and understanding yourself. What are your pains and dreams? You need to expose these, because at the surface level, like especially career coaches a lot, they'll tell you, oh, what do you want? You want the 20% pay upgrade. You want the VP title, right? Like, no. Like you go deep on a person, you go like therapy style with people, they want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel purposeful. They want to feel like they matter. That's the deep stuff. That's the stuff people really want in life. So you have to expose that for yourself. What sort of pains am I wrestling with in my past? What sort of dreams do I have for myself? Let's make that come to the surface. Create a lifestyle vision. Step 3 then is what I call design your freedom blueprint. Because inherently, if we feel caged, what do we want? We want freedom. We want to feel free. And that can come out in different ways. I like helping my clients focus in 5 different elements of freedom. We've got freedom of time, freedom financially, freedom of purpose, freedom of health, freedom of relationships. If you get all of those amped up, those are very healthy ways of being. And you want to sketch out, like, what does financial freedom mean to me? What does time freedom mean to me? And it can be different for everyone. Like, we all got to have our own blueprint. And then you ask yourself, what will it take over time for that freedom to come to life? And then lastly, I like getting very tactical with an action plan. You activate this action plan, 30, 60-day increments. How do you make progress on that blueprint to make new gains come to life, stop the bleeding, all of that? So that's the high level of how I help people become uncaged.
Yeah, I really like how you broke it down to four different steps, right? And it follows a very logical order. Out of these 4 steps, what do you think is like the biggest, when you work with your clients, what's the biggest challenge? Is it stopping the bleeding? Is it finding what motivates them? Is the freedom part? Which part of this is the hardest part for people?
Stop the bleeding, because they have all these limiting beliefs about what's possible, right? They grew up, you're conditioned from a very young age when you're told to pick a path, and inevitably you're kind of rat racing to some respect at some point. But as you go through high school and college, you get into the workforce, you're operating as the system tells you to. You need to have grades of a certain type. You need to have certain certifications, credentials, the right degree, the right experiences to get promoted from level 1 to 2 to 3. These are all a rubric where everyone is basically following. And that also leads to everyone operating the same way daily, like going to the same stand-up meetings, performing the same way for every single project, like trying to fill their weaknesses instead of actually double counting or double focusing on strengths, which is probably a lot smarter move. And you have to say, I don't have to follow the same path as everyone else. I can choose different things. I can choose my interests, my skills. I can be unique in this place. So you have to stop the bleeding, dispel these limiting beliefs, almost like you have to understand your matrix. You have to like wake up from it, take the red pill, like, oh, there's an entirely new world possible. Morpheus gave me the red pill and now I can see more clearly. I can choose a different reality. And then you start down that journey.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And my ideal client are former shy introverts, right? I'm trying to help them build confidence. That this ties in directly, right? People who lack that self-confidence have a lot of these limiting beliefs. They feel like they can't do certain things, or they need to, have this certain certification or have this certain education to have a specific job. You just have to pursue it. And I think one of the other things you mentioned was having that passion for it, having that want for it, and that will really help drive you to whatever career, whatever you want to do. With what you want to do, right? You just have to overcome that limiting beliefs that, like you said, to achieve what you really want.
Mm-hmm. There's also an important reality here where the corporate world, because you're inherently working another person's mission, is always, in most cases, going to feel a little bit off. You're never going to feel it like it's yours. And we like owning things as people. And in that sense, sometimes you have to look at the environment, the corporate job, even if it's a multi-year journey, as a utility play. And this is a message that I try to really hit home with people, is that if you understand the utility that a corporate path brings you, like it's good compensation, it opens doors, good network, good benefits, like those are very tangible things, but it's utility. And if you leave it at that and you draw a line and say, I will not seek purpose and meaning, but I will extract this utility and I will work hard enough to get really good utility, that's really important. And if you save some time and energy while doing it, like stopping the bleeding, then you ask yourself, where do I find purpose and meaning? Oftentimes, Stephen, this involves spinning up a side hustle, thinking about an entrepreneurial vision for yourself. So a lot of my clients, while I'm trying very hard with them to make the most of their corporate experience and helping them uncage, many of them are asking questions like, how do I lay the groundwork for an entrepreneurial future that I control? So that's a real pathway that a lot of people might want to consider over time as well. Sorry, I lost you there.
Yep, sorry. Just moved into my new house. Haven't had the Wi-Fi extenders set up yet, so I apologize for dropping there. So I want to give you the last couple minutes here, Matt, to share. I know you mentioned you're coming up with a new cohort course. You mentioned your 4-step program. This is Matt's LinkedIn profile down here. How can people get in touch with you, or how can you help others as well?
Yeah, come straight to the LinkedIn profile. Hit me up. There's some links on my profile. If you want to chat for 15 minutes about what it's like to live uncaged, I will take those all day, every day. I love helping people. It gives me fuel, gives me energy. We could explore what it's like to coach with one another. I'm also, to your point, starting a new course. It's going launching in the back half of April here. If you go to uncaged.academy, there you go. Very timely. That's where you'll find the course here, and you'll see what it's all about. It's going to be a sprint style 4-week effort to really go through those 4 steps I just walked through. So if it's interesting to you, I think you'll really love it. And you'll be in a cohort with other peers that are all going through the same transformation. So the community is really there, and you'll build some friendships in the process. So that's exciting. And then every single day I'm posting on LinkedIn. I do some on Twitter, and then I have my podcast, UncageYourself.fm. You can find it there, where I really just try to get the word out. I'm passionate about this stuff because I'm serving my old self. Like, if you look at my story, I know my past self very well. That person was in pain, needed help. And I know there's many more people like that out in the world. I want to go help them. And I'm trying to bring language and clarity to it, and services that help them get to a better life.
Yeah, I really, really like your mission, Matt. Like I said in the very beginning when you introduced yourself, that your story really resonates with a lot of different people. So make sure to check out Matt's, connect with him on LinkedIn. He has his course coming out, Uncaged.academy. And I really like that cohort style. Like, you build that community of support. You're growing with everyone as well. Any final thoughts before we close here, Matt?
Self-reliance. This is a theme from one of my favorite philosophers and essayists, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph would talk all the time about the importance of self-reliance. And when you look at being caged and that feeling of working under someone else's mission, and then you not feeling like you're the self-actualized person you are meant to be, what it takes is self-reliance, betting on yourself, facing your fear, trying new things, carving your own path. And I know that's kind of cliche, like burn your own, blaze your own trail and all that stuff. But if you make it tangible for yourself, it's life's greatest reward.
Yep, exactly. And what I like to tell a lot of people is you got to take ownership. You got to take command of your own career. You can have mentors, you can have people who can guide you, but you are the one who has to make that decision to take that new job, or to update your resume, or to apply to a new job. Something as simple as that. You have to be the one to take that action. So I really, really like your quote as well.
And last point, life is layer 1. The lifestyle you want is layer 1. Career and everything else is layer 2. That enables the lifestyle. Always make sure you're living the life you want, and that's clear and compelling and exciting. And then you ask yourself, how does my professional world enable that? How do other features of my life enable that? So keep that in mind. You'll never go wrong there.
Yep, absolutely. Life should be number one priority, not work. So thank you so much, Matt. I learned quite a bit from this LinkedIn Live here. We talked about recognizing the signs about being in a toxic work environment. We talked about your 4-step process on how to break free of the corporate cage. You got a lot of resources on your LinkedIn. You got a course coming out. You got a podcast as well. So thank you so much, Matt, for joining me here and sharing, and just sharing in general with your LinkedIn audience about how to break free of the corporate cage and uncage yourself. Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks, Stephen.